coming up with Gospel T.K. Mensah on the theme, Leadership. Be inspired.
Hi, my name is Gospel T.K. Mensah. I welcome you to this inspirational nugget. We are dealing with the concept of leadership. Last, we dealt with the principles of leadership. We're looking at the foundations of leadership. And we saw the leadership principle number one is you need to have a source for your leadership principle. Then number two, you need to be a non-conformist. Don't go along by getting along. Then number three, we said that in your leadership philosophy or principle, you need to know that leadership is about offering useful service, not just a service, useful service. The fourth leadership principle we gleaned was leadership is about giving away your right. About giving away your right. That leads us to principle number 5. We are still within the text of Mark chapter 10, from verse 42 through to verse 45. When you look at verse 44 carefully, Jesus made a statement, and I want to read it. He says, "And whoever of you desires to be first shall be slave of all." You will see that. There I see the emphasis in slave of all. In other words, the fifth principle of leadership is a non-discriminatory, or must be non-discriminatory or unbiased service. If you want to lead people, regardless of their religious affiliation, regardless of their creed, your creed, regardless of their status, either educated, uneducated, rich or poor, you must serve them in an unbiased nature. This is a principle we need to. You see, sometimes leaders treat people based on what they bring on the table, based on their pocket, based on what they bring to help the group. Jesus says, the leadership principle is anyone who is desiring, anyone contemplating to be a leader, you must serve all. That eliminates ethnocentric tendency. You get a point? It takes away tribal affiliation. So I treat a person of my tribe better than someone who is not of my tribe. So it brings equity to the table. So if someone is to be punished, the leadership principle is if you are to be a servant, a slave of all, you serve everyone faithfully, regardless of what they are located. It is a critical principle. Jesus says, if you want to serve people, if you want to be a leader, be fair in your dealing to everyone. The fifth principle of leadership. That takes me to the sixth leadership principle. We are talking about the principles of leadership, still within the context of Mark chapter 10, from verse 42 through to verse 45. Look at the way Jesus captured this. The sixth leadership principle is you need to embrace the paradox of greatness. Let me explain. You need to embrace the paradox of greatness. Paradox is more or less like an oxymoron or an oxymoron. It's a contradiction of a statement. For example, you say that bitter sweet, kind of a thing. So there is a paradox. Let's locate this paradox. Look at the text carefully. Mark 10:44. "And whoever of you desires to be first shall be slave of all." Let's take note of that. Jesus is saying, I'm not against you being the first. But if you want to be the first, you must be the slave of all. In that statement, I see a paradox. So you want to be first, don't run ahead of everybody. Don't run ahead of your followers. No, you must take a back seat. You must literally slave for everyone. Slave for the children, slave for the aged, slave for the poor, slave for the slow. So a teacher who is teaching and understand Jesus' leadership principle, the dumbest of the students, you must be willing to go the extra mile for them. You are a pastor, and then you are in a church. You have the weakest of your church members. You must exhibit as a leadership of service that you slave for that everyone. You are a president, and you have some regions that do not just accept your principle, your philosophy, your project. You must slave for them regardless of the way they look at you. Jesus says, do you want to be the first? Do you want to be a leader? Be the last to benefit. Please, in your attempts to rather be behind, then you become the great. There is the paradox. So don't run ahead of the people. Don't run ahead to be the first to be seen, the first to be known, the first to be served. No, you rather serve, not just serve. The Greek word used the mean slave for your constituent. Therein lies the principle that in that you become the first. So greatness is embodied in slaving for others. The seventh leadership principle from the greatest leader of all time is Mark 10 verse 45. Jesus says, leadership is humility on wheel, practical demonstration of humility. The text says, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. Even the Son of Man, even God, you get a point, even the Creator, whilst in the presence of his creatures, he served them. He did not come for them to serve him. In other words, Christ is saying humility is a condition precedent to harnessing leadership power. You must exhibit humility. Get in the trenches with the people. Don't lead by what you say, lead by what you do. Don't lead by command, lead by practical demonstration. Whoever your followers may be, come to their level. Meet with them, mingle with them, eat with them. Do not peg yourself higher than them. In other words, humility means demonstrate a sense of meekness in your leadership philosophy. Don't be arrogant. Don't be proud. And by arrogant, it's not just by speaking confidently. Respect people. Value people. Come to people's level. Don't slight people. Christ is saying leadership must be anchored on humility, but it must be demonstrated practically. The ninth leadership principle Christ exemplified is leadership is ultimate sacrifice. Leadership is ultimate sacrifice. Look at the text quite carefully. Mark 10 verse 45. Even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life. And to give his life. So, in other words, when one is called to lead, the meaning is, I'm ready to die. I'm not just ready to be hungry for my cause. I'm not just ready to suffer for my cause. I'm ready to lay my life. In other words, the ultimate price, one must be ready to pay it. You sacrifice to the very extreme, to the highest level, to the apogee, so to speak. Leadership. It deals with the generosity of the leader, ready to offer himself, ready to lay down his life. And that is the exemplification of a life of Christ. He gave himself for his people. Matthew chapter 1:21, the Son of Man came. His purpose is to save his people from their sin. He paid the ultimate price. The principle of leadership is how many of our leaders, or how many of we the leaders, are ready to pay the ultimate price just for the sake of the followers. Leadership principle teaches us leadership is about willing or desiring to pay the ultimate price. The last leadership principle I gleaned from the life of Jesus, or from this text, Mark chapter 10, is that leadership is about being productive. Christ says he came, he gave his life as a ransom, Mark 10:45, for the ransom of many. In other words, the principle we glean there is every reason for which we set out to lead must be achieved. It's not just about activity. Leadership is also about getting the result. It's being productive. When Christ came, he wanted to save the world. And he said, indeed, I gave myself and I paid the price. The Greek word literally means the price was paid for the liberation of the slaves. In other words, I slaved till death for the people. What is required for my people to be set free, I did it. No wonder the Bible says, if the Son sets you free, you are free indeed. In other words, he paid the price and making him productive. Do you want to be a leader? These 9 principles should be your guiding rule. These 9 principles should shape your leadership philosophy. My name is Godfrey T.K. Mensah. I want to be part of your life as we glean these youthful principles of leadership. Let's gather around this platform as we study, be faithful, and remain blessed, even during this season of elections. Blessings.